common problem is the hitch, meaning that the racket stops before it goes up to the upswing to the ball, okay? So we'd get to here, boom, stop, and go. Some pros teach a slowdown, some teach a stop, but not a hitch stop. It's in a different place. It's for a purpose. So we want to be able to work through that hitch. So if Neha has a hitch with the total serve, she's going to show us what's going to happen. It's going to bunker in the back. It's going to diagnose what the problem is, okay? So I'm a very physical teacher. I'm always telling people I'm going to grab your shirt, I'm going to touch your arm, whatever it happens to be. And right now I'm going to tell her I'm going to grab her right hip and I'm going to pull it forward because that's going to get her through her hitch. Okay, go ahead. Now, right. So you notice since she rotated from the ground up, since that hip came forward early, it takes you right through your hitch. That's a really, really easy fix. And it's easier to do it with the total serve than it is with a racket, because with your racket, you can really manhandle this thing. With that, you just kind of have to let it go and you have to let your body do what it's supposed to do. Our next really, really big problem is high elbow, and I find it a lot in women. And in the old days, they used to teach us to say, scratch your back. So that meant this, right? Get the racket down the back. So my elbow is really high, and that's a non-power position. Nobody can do anything well from here as far as throwing is concerned. And since a tennis serve is basically a throw, this is a bad position to be in. So we are looking for our elbow to be back towards the back fence, our arm around parallel to the ground, and the only time our elbow goes up is when we're actually accelerating up to the ball. It doesn't travel up before we drop, okay? So Neha does have high elbow, so she's going to be an easy fix here. So I'm going to actually tip you this way a little bit so that they can see better with the camera. Good, beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to touch her bicep to stop her arm from going up so she can feel what the correct thing is to do, and then she can start to change it. Okay, so let's do it. Full swing. Good, you need to relax. Do it again. At this point, I have to go like this to hold her arm down, okay? It doesn't look like much, but she's really forcing me. Okay, so bend it now, bend. There, good. First, you have to have awareness. If you're used to having your elbow up here, then having your elbow here feels like this. Remember, in this sport, and like every other sport, anytime you're making a change, you need to exaggerate. Our next common problem, which Neha doesn't have, but she kind of used to, is I call it low elbow and sort of a creeping motion, where people that are kind of scared, they're afraid to let the ball go up in the air, they want to keep everything under their control, so they make it very small down here. Elbows stay kind of crunched in, the ball toss goes low, okay? So in this case, if you do that with a racket, you can get away with it. You just don't have much of a serve. You don't have any velocity. But if you do it with a total serve, we get this. Okay, so tennis pros, this is how you do it. Okay, get it back. Good, and through. Okay, so I can't keep that continuous motion unless I drive my hip as well. That's a really easy fix. And remember, your arms like to do the same thing on either side of your body. If this arm is getting bigger, this arm is going to want to get bigger too. So that means I'll have better timing. That means I'm more likely to have a ball toss that's high enough to produce the serve that I want to produce. Another big issue with your serve is hitting out instead of hitting up. Hitting up is a very difficult concept. And since we have a tennis racket in our hand, we tend to use our hand to force forward. And that's why I weighted the total serve so much in the end, so that when you actually get that end moving in the correct direction, you're going to feel what hitting up feels like. And it takes you through pronating without you knowing it. Okay? I'm also a big proponent of using targets. I use targets for everything, right? We're always hitting targets here, there. There's no way you're going to learn how to aim if you don't have a target. So a target for this, let's say Neha has a low ball toss, which is pretty common, and it's a really common phenomenon when people get nervous. The ball toss gets lower because your arms tighten up and the ball toss shrinks, so you lose your serve. So let's just look really closely at her arm action when she's swinging out to this low target. So she's going to try and hit that pink target. Good. So we saw her hand coming towards you, right? It's directly towards your face. Now, we're going to give her a more realistic, what we're looking for. We want her to try and contact up here. So it's going to be out in front to her right. This will be for a flattish to a slice serve, flattish serve. So the ball toss would be out and to the right. Okay, so she's going to go up and up Good. Oh, and we saw her leave the ground, right? Her weight load was good with her legs, and she lifted off of her left leg. Let's do it one more time. And up. Excellent. Good. Another really common phenomenon out here is your ball toss. There are lots of different ways to teach a ball toss. And I happen to like straight arm, flat hand, flat fingers, from the shoulder, down, all the way up. But the main issue is, where does that ball, no matter how you toss it up there, where does that ball end up? And that's called our contact point. So if we never know where our contact point's going to be, how do we create a swing? That's pretty difficult. We're always chasing a toss and changing our swing. What we want is one swing, basically, and your contact point. Well, a lot of people think that the total serve is only for a rhythmic swing. And so I've seen pros use it and swing it around figure eights, warming up. But it's so much more than that. It's for feeling all the different parts of your serve and being able to target one particular thing. So, for example, with Neha, last year, her leg use, she had no idea how to use her legs. She did one of these down-up tosses, okay? And that's a really hard thing to change when you've got a ball in your hand. You've got to release it and toss it and use the correct action with your hitting hand and your racket. So I'm going to have Neha, she's just going to right now concentrate while she's going through all of the motions. Her brain is only thinking about her legs and what the action of her legs should be in the serve. Okay. Excellent. Good. You remember to look up that time. So drive up. Do it again. So we're thinking legs, only legs. Up. Good. Okay, so leave the ground this time. So before, when you left the ground, you wouldn't leave the ground if you were pushing off your right leg, would you? No, you'd push off your left leg. So you're primarily, when you have a platform stance, you're primarily pushing up more off of your left leg. Your right leg, that's going to be up, and your right leg is going to be pushing too, but it's going to be primarily pushing your hip forward around for your rotation. Okay, so you're going to leave the ground this time, and up, up. Excellent. So we saw that she left the ground off of her left foot. She didn't jump to the ball. That's a misconception. I get people who are trying to jump to the ball, and you can't do anything with power when you're in midair, okay? Since you're forcing your way up from the ground with bent legs, all your power is going up, you leave the ground, you don't jump to hit a serve. Another really big issue on the serve parts is using your tossing hand and keeping your head up, all right? So I'm going to concentrate only on what my tossing arm is doing and keeping my head up this time. So I'm going to be using my legs, I'm going to be using my racket hand, I'm going to be using the total serve, it's going to be swinging, but my brain is only on my tossing action and my head being up. Remember, you can't keep your head up if it doesn't go up, right? Most people only toss, their tossing hand only goes this high, so this is as high as their vision goes. So we're looking for the tossing hand to go all the way up, and you notice that also sets my shoulders in an angle where my right shoulder is lower than my left shoulder. I want an angle going up so that I can drive up to the ball, okay? So I'm going to do it from this angle so that you can see I'm going to be tossing up and stretching all the way up, looking over my tossing hand, and I'm keeping it there until my right hand starts to come through. So you don't even have to pay any attention to the rest of my body. All I'm thinking about is tossing arm, looking up. Tossing arm, looking up. I can even see, I'm looking up so long, I can even see the total serve coming up over the top. So this will enable you to see the ball, which is pretty darn important. It will enable you to have an accurate toss and to get your shoulders at the right angle for a drive up to the ball.